Hello, welcome to QUT News.
Hello.
Queensland is in the grip of a flu disaster. It has caused at least 25 deaths so far this year, and authorities say nobody is safe.
The peak flu season hasn't arrived yet, but Queensland is already on track to pass last year's death toll of 43. Flu season in Australia typically runs from July to October, but already this year the number of deaths from influenza is up 56% from the previous year. The red line representing 2019 shows a large increase in flu notifications compared to the past 4 years.
This is shaping as potentially a very bad flu season, and we're still within the time in which people can and should go and get their flu shots if they haven't had it already. We provide free flu shots to a range of people, so many people in Queensland can get them for free.
848 people have already been admitted to hospital this year, with 78 ending up in intensive care.
We are seeing a lot more cases of flu this year, around 3.5 times more than we'd expect to see at this time of year.
Queensland Health is encouraging people not to treat the illness as just a common cold and seek help sooner rather than later.
We really can't predict what's going to happen, which is why it's so important that people go and have a vaccine, because that's really the only way they can protect themselves and their family against the flu.
The Australian Medical Association says it's crucial for those most at risk to get a flu shot.
People cannot be complacent about this viral illness. It is not a common cold. It has life-threatening issues here.
Medical authorities are encouraging anyone experiencing flu-like symptoms to stay at home and not go to work, where they chance risking the health of colleagues. James Stevens, QUT News.
An Australian man has died and 2 others are missing after 2 seaplanes collided mid-air in Alaska. The planes were carrying passengers from a Royal Princess cruise ship. The 56-year-old Australian is one of 4 people who died in the crash. 10 people were rescued and are receiving medical treatment. An investigation into the cause of the crash is underway.
Scott Morrison and Bill Shorten are crisscrossing the country to win over voters before Saturday, and house prizes remain a key talking point.
The Prime Minister was in Geelong to save Liberal MP Sarah Henderson from losing her seat after boundaries were redrawn. He plugged his first home buyer plan while greeting future homeowners.
Give me a tour of your house.
The PM was pushed on lobbying from property groups.
You had any conversations with that group or any other property groups about this?
I haven't, no.
Did you discuss it with the Insurance Council?
No, I did not.
The Property Council?
No.
Meanwhile, Bill Shorten is back in WA, promising to crack down on wage theft. He's pledged a new tribunal to spare workers from lengthy court proceedings over unpaid wages. The tribunal would rule on claims of up to $100,000 in a day.
If they have been ripped off, it's not a long and cumbersome legal process.
A record 3 million Australians have already cast their vote at pre-polling stations around the country. Grace Desher, QUT News.
The election race has turned personal as 2 former Prime Ministers berate sitting members. But do voters really prefer politicians to focus on policy?
The ghost of governments past.
Hello, what's your name, Joe?
One day after 2 former Liberal MPs campaigned together, Paul Keating launches a scathing attack.
I've never seen any public figure as mean or mean-spirited as Peter Dutton.
Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton is fighting for the marginal seat of Dickson.
Those electors in Dickson have a chance to drive a political stake through his dark political heart.
But Mr Dutton tells Twitter followers Paul Keating inspired him to join the Liberal Party. And he says the real danger is Bill Shorten. Not to be outdone, John Howard also had something to say about the opposition leader's tax policy.
I detect in the community a lot of growing suspicion that Bill Shorten is after your savings.
But apparently many voters want the talk to be about policy and not personal attacks.
I think that they're ridiculous and they're like school kids in the playground and they need to grow up.
I think it's really disgusting the way politics is run in this country now, and it's just, I don't know why the standard is sunk so low.
I don't want to hear what the other person did wrong, I want to hear what you're doing right.
With only 3 days to go until the election, it looks likely the result will come down to the 17% of undecided voters. The latest news poll has Labor ahead 51-49. Brittany Butler, QUT News.
Australia's worst serial killer, Ivan Milat, is in hospital for what's thought to be a serious medical condition. He was taken secretly from Goulburn Supermax prison to the Prince of Wales Hospital in Sydney. The 74-year-old is under tight security. Milat murdered 7 backpackers southwest of Sydney in the late 80s and early 90s. He is said to have been visited by several specialists recently, and there's speculation he may not be well enough to return to jail.
A woman missing for 8 months has been found dead west of Sydney. Police have released CCTV looking for answers.
2 months after human remains were found in a dam in the Blue Mountains, police have confirmed they belong to Cecilia Devine. The 42-year-old New South Wales singer was reported missing on September 5th last year. She was captured on CCTV the next day in Katoomba, more than 200 kilometres away from where she was reported missing in Newcastle. This is believed to be the last time she was seen alive. Her body was found nearby 5 months later by workers at a water treatment facility. Devine's 2 brothers are urging anyone with information to come forward.
We're putting our hands out there to anyone that may know or have any information as to filling in the pieces that from the time that she was noticed as being missing to the time we were notified, and the people out at Katoomba there that found her body in mid-March of this year.
Homicide detectives are now investigating the circumstances surrounding her death. They're appealing to anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Laura Daly, QUT News.
Far North Queensland is preparing for flash flooding and a deluge from ExTropical Cyclone N. It's heading for land between Port Douglas and Cape Grenville, with wind gusts up to 90 kilometres. Further west in the peninsula, isolated communities have been warned, expect some flooding with heavy rain. The tropical low began its assault this morning when it was off the coast about 380 kilometres from Cairns.
One of Brisbane's biggest cycling events is attracting thousands of riders, and they're raising money for a good cause.
An early Sunday morning start, raising funds to end the fight against cancer. Riders will pedal up to 100 kilometres at the annual Great Brisbane Bike Ride.
It's one of our most loved community cycling events, and it takes in much of the River Loop, which is one of the most popular rides in Queensland.
The community will be smiling for Smitty as part of a cancer research fundraiser in honour of Adam Smitty, who passed away from melanoma aged 26.
This cancer research is to assist us locally in Queensland and Australia and also around the world to find a cure for cancer.
The ride will go from the Gateway Bridge and loop its way back past Suncorp Stadium in time for the Mount Cootha Challenge. The Great Ride is estimated to bring together about 2,000 pedallers.
We have thousands of energy bars and bananas and water to keep everybody going strong. We definitely recommend carbo loading beforehand.
The thought of finish line food not to take away from the main purpose.
The ultimate goal at the end of the day is for all of us to find a cure to beat this disease.
Isabella McGee, QUT News.
Paniyiri is Queensland's largest cultural festival, so it takes plenty of preparation to get ready to feed the hungry hordes.
You know Paniyiri's on the way when you have a cluster of cooks and cartons of calamari. Volunteer cooks were busy this morning, slicing, dicing and, of course, laughing.
We love it, we do it for the community, we do it for our culture, so everybody loves to do that.
And this is just part of the mountain of meals to feed the thousands expected to attend the celebration of all things Greek. Over the weekend, they'll down hundreds of thousands of honey puffs, a ton of grilled halloumi and more than 10,000 Greek sausages.
We just manufacture everything nice and fresh here. We don't buy anything from commercially made, it's only homemade.
Generations of families help out to keep the tradition going.
I'm here because my mum was here full-time for many years. Now I take her place and I love it.
Over 4 decades, millions of people have attended Paniyiri. Cyprus may be more than 10,000 kilometres from Brisbane, but this weekend, Musgrave Park will be transformed to give a taste of the Mediterranean. All money raised goes back into supporting the 25,000-strong Greek community of southeast Queensland. Chloe Maxwell, QUT News.
Looking again at our main story, the election turns personal with just days to go.
And still to come, Prince Harry talks with sick children about his baby boy. Prince Harry has admitted he is still getting used to being a parent, but couldn't imagine life without his son. The Duke of Sussex was showered with gifts and advice as he visited families at a children's hospital,
bringing smiles and laughter. Prince Harry took time out from his fatherly duties to visit with patients at the Oxford Children's Hospital. 13-year-old Daisy Wingrove making an impression as she welcomed the prince with a gift.
Who's this?
He sat with the children who have been battling cancer and chatted to their parents about being a new dad.
I don't know if I'm used to it. It's the weirdest thing. People say that you just, once you have a child, they just fit in.
They do. Patients forgetting their troubles.
This is for baby. I love that.
And showering new royal baby Archie with presents.
Are you sure you want to give this to me? You don't want to. That's very sweet. Thank you very much. I'll make sure I give this to my little boy. He's called Archie. And he'll probably pop it.
And with a hug, the prince departed, eager to get back to his family. Grace Deja, QUT News.
Meanwhile, the Duchess of Cambridge paid tribute to those involved in World War II. Kate visited the old home of Britain's World War II codebreakers, where her own grandmother worked. The Duchess saw a new exhibition marking the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings. She also talked to locals and accepted flowers from a young fan.
Dramatic Vision has captured the moment 2 San Diego police officers were shot after responding to a disturbance call. They filmed it on their own body cam.
As firefighters break down the door of a San Diego apartment, 28-year-old Joe Darwish opens fire. Police were called to the apartment after reports of a disturbance. Arriving to a hail of gunfire, officers were forced to retreat back into the corridor for safety, before one officer is shot, falling to the ground, as a second tries to help him.
Danny, get back. Yo, can't move.
Terrifyingly, gunshots can still be heard ringing out from inside the apartment.
Hey, we got one hit.
Then another officer is shot. The footage was released by the San Diego District's Attorney's Office following the completion of the incident's review. Luckily, both wounded officers survived, but the suspect was later found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Isla Stanich, QUT News.
A former US police officer who murdered an Australian woman is appealing. Mohammed Noor shot Justine Ruzcek de Monde after she had called police to tell them a woman was being assaulted outside her home. A jury found he was guilty of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter after a 3-week trial. Noor claims he should be acquitted because he did not act with a depraved heart.
Sri Lanka has been hit with yet another wave of terror. Violent mobs have moved from town to town, wiping out Muslim-owned homes and businesses.
They destroyed everything in their path, throwing rocks, ransacking and setting fire to houses, stores and mosques. One man was stabbed to death in the riots while mob members burnt Qurans. The Prime Minister visited the towns worst affected by the recent outbreak of violence.
We have given the armed services and police full power and the responsibility to control this situation.
The attacks are believed to be a retaliation against the Muslim community after the Easter Sunday bombings, which killed more than 250 people.
It has been confirmed that hundreds of thugs from outside have come in and done these damages.
Sri Lankan police have arrested 23 people in connection to the recent incident. They say the situation is now under control, but a nationwide curfew of 9 p.m. is set to continue. Laura Daly, QUT News.
The World Health Organization says physical activity is crucial to help prevent dementia. It has issued its first ever guidelines on the growing problem.
Each year, dementia affects around 50 million people globally, a figure that's set to triple by 2050. And as dementia increases, so too will the cost of caring for dementia patients.
By 2030, it is predicted that the cost of looking after people with dementia will rise to $2 trillion annually.
Although age is the strongest known risk factor, a new report released by the World Health Organization states dementia is not a natural or inevitable consequence of aging. Diabetes and obesity are also among the leading risk factors. But there are preventative measures we can take now to try and ward off the disease.
Increasing physical activity, stopping tobacco use, reducing the use of alcohol intake, getting treatment for hypertension, diabetes, and increased cholesterol levels.
With the help of WHO's new preventative guidelines, those at risk of developing dangerous lifestyle diseases can act now to try and prevent the future widespread heartbreak of loved ones.
Dementia not only is devastating for the person with the illness, but also for families and caregivers.
Isla Stanic, QUT News.
Going, gone. Take a look at this vision from Poland. A 90-metre cooling tower was demolished in just seconds. It was blown up with explosives along with 3 other cooling towers at a power plant. They were built in the 1960s and did not meet current emissions requirements.
Former rugby league star Jarryd Hayne is facing a second sexual assault charge. The charge relates to an alleged incident on the night of last year's NRL Grand Final. It is the second charge for Hayne, who is accused of sexually assaulting a 26-year-old woman in New South Wales' Hunter region. Hayne fronted a New South Wales court on the new charge, where his case was adjourned until next month.
To sport now, and the AFL will be without several key players this weekend. Bombers midfielder Devon Smith is expected to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury.
It's been a tense week for the Bombers. Key player Devon Smith is out with an injury, and coach John Worsfold is questioning the AFL's decision to fine Sydney Swans player Dan Rampey. The Swans star player climbed a goalpost during the final moments of Friday night's game, despite the umpire not paying a free kick.
It wasn't a free kick. It was nothing to do with the match review panel, but he's been fined. So I'm not sure what basket it's fitting in. There's an outcome. It's just how it got to that outcome. You could say it was long-winded.
Injury woes have reached Collingwood as well. Jamie Elliott is likely to miss out on playing for a month with hamstring tightness. While in NRL, Parramatta Eels contract concerns continue, with Clint Gatherson still yet to put pen to paper. The club has relaxed a Friday deadline for the captain in a bid to lure him to stay, with a $3 million deal on the table. This year's State of Origin series has officially been launched, with former NRL player Anthony Mundine issuing a passionate plea to Blues coach Brad Fittler. The premiership-winning player is pushing for Fittler to keep the faith with James Roberts, despite the Broncos dropping the playmaker to reserve grade. Isla Stanic, QUT News.
The weather details are next with Tom Copley.
And an Aussie through to the Eurovision Grand Final.
Hi, it's been a bit damp and fairly cloudy in Brisbane today, with a slight improvement coming up. Temperatures for the southeast were in the mild 20s as a result of the cloud cover, with a few millimetres of rain on the coasts. Brisbane got to a top of 23. There's no suggestion of rain in any of the other capitals tomorrow, and mostly sunny, except for some cloud in Sydney. As usual at this time of year, it will be a little warmer than Melbourne on 23 degrees, and Darwin 10 degrees warmer than that. The remnants of Cyclone N will continue to affect Queensland, with a high chance of showers in the north of the state and moving west. Townsville is looking at a top of 27, Bundaberg 25, and Mount Isa just 3 degrees warmer. Out of Moreton Bay, winds will be southerly at 10 to 15 knots and seas below a metre. If you're wanting to see a sunrise, make sure you're up by 21 minutes past 6. Gold Coast residents can expect a shower or two, then cloud and a top temperature of 25. So not the best day for tourists at the beach, and it won't be any better on the Sunshine Coast and a degree cooler. The forecast for Brisbane over the next 3 days indicates a continuing shower or two, but the chance of it decreasing daily. Top temperature will hover around the mid-20s for the rest of the week. That's all I've got for you for the moment. Back to you, Dan.
Australia's entrant in the Eurovision Song Contest has been wowing with glitz and glamour. Kate Miller-Heidke has reached the grand final.
Singing and dancing in the streets.
And when it all comes down.
Dressed in the colours of their chosen countries. Eurovision fans travelled from around the world to cheer on their favourite contestants.
The feeling is great. I hope we pass the finals and we'll see. It's going to be a very interesting evening.
But not all of them chose to support their home country.
And we're here to support Iceland. Iceland has the best song this year. Yeah. Neither of us is from Iceland, but we love the songs.
The 64th Eurovision contest, this year held in Tel Aviv, Israel, has 41 countries competing for the trophy.
Feeling hopeful, yeah.
Winning in the air.
Yeah. It's great to be here in Israel, Tel Aviv.
After blitzing the semi-finals, 10 contestants, including Australia's Kate Miller-Heidke, will go on to perform in the grand final. Laura Daly, QUT News.
That brings you up to date with QUT News. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.